Welcome to the Pathfinder podcast, my friends. Here you'll learn interesting information to inspire you to start your own business, or if you already own a business, to hopefully take it to the next level. I'm Lori Gama, and my guest today is Fabian Flores. Welcome, Fabian.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm excited to have you here.
Yeah, thank you. This has been a long time coming, so I'm excited too.
Great. I'm going to read an introduction about you so our viewers know a little bit more about you, and then I'm going to get to the juicy stuff.
Okay.
Okay. Fabian Flores is the owner and master electrician of King Electric LLC, bringing over 20 years of industry experience to every project. As a Northern Colorado multi-generation native and a proud military veteran, his impressive career spans diverse work environments across Colorado. Under Fabian's leadership, King Electric LLC has built a growing portfolio that includes commercial, residential, and industrial projects. As a Q-Merit certified partner, the company continues to set the standard in quality and innovation for electrification services, primarily focusing now on residential. Fabian and his wife Lana run the company. They have a son, Kanan, and a daughter, Kendall, and the family loves enjoying nice dinners together, whether at home or out on the town, especially when they're on vacation. They also cherish spending time in the mountains or at nearby lakes like Horsetooth in their camper whenever time permits. So, Fabian, can you share with us today your journey in becoming a business owner? Did you ever imagine as a young boy that you would grow up to be a successful business owner?
Oh man, not exactly. I think it did happen kind of odd. I grew up here in Greeley, in a single parent home. My grandparents were heavily involved in my life growing up, so from a young age, my gramps was always had a lawn service, and he did all these different things, and he was always dragging me around, right, and just working, constantly working. It wasn't until I was probably in high school, I started high school, and just kind of was inspired by other people and some new friends that I had met, and things like that to create a better life for myself, right? So. My family, they weren't college educated. They didn't, have these big businesses. They didn't have, somebody teaching them how to do these things, how to become an entrepreneur. It wasn't natural for me, right? But I always had a strong desire to do something with my life and show my family, that it's possible. And I do remember as a young kid, just always talking about how one day I'm gonna be this person, I'm going to do these things. And as I was driving around with my grandpa and him telling me, you need to learn how to change your own oil and fix your own trucks and stuff like that. I'm like, why? I'm just going to pay somebody to do this stuff one day, And he's like, no, so he had that mentality, old school work, born in the Depression times and stuff like that. So his mentality was of that, right? So thankfully, him dragging me around and just forcing me to work at 4 a.m., and doing all these things at 9 years old really was my earliest memories till maybe 13 or 14, just working with him and learning from him and understanding the value of, hard work really put me on a path of just trying to figure this thing out and creating my own business one day. So it was kind of there, but it kind of wasn't. So it was, like I said, once I got to high school, I saw this whole new world. I met different people, and we grew up on the east side of Greeley. I hung out at Sunrise Park. You don't travel very far sometimes when you don't have money to do these types of things. So we were real bound by my house, my grandparents' house. They lived on the north side of Greeley. I lived on the east side of Greeley, and that's like as far as we went. So going to Greeley West, things changed, and we just see all these new people and the way they live, and I made all these new friends, and I was really inspired by a couple of them, and that's where I really realized that I can have a better life, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of where it started for me. That's where the desire came from.
That's great. That's great. I sort of have a similar story. I mean, I also heard when I was growing up that I could have a better life than what my parents and grandparents had. They just told me that a lot, and I kind of always knew that I was never going to work a 9-to-5 job. I just like you, it sounds like you just knew when you grew up that you were going to have a different life. And it's really great that your grandfather really instilled that work ethic. I think it's super important. And I think that reflects as a leader in your company too. So
Yeah.
that's so cool.
Yeah.
What inspired you exactly to pursue a career in electrical?
Inspired me, right? So I've been an electrician 20 years now. I'm 43, so actually more than 20 years.
And you're a master electrician
I'm a
too.
master electrician. Yeah, I've been a master electrician for 15 years now. So I had a couple things happened. One, I was inspired by a friend's dad, right? I was struggling at my senior year in high school. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I wasn't feeling very good. Things weren't good at home. So number one, I joined the military. I didn't know what to do. I joined the military, and it was a split op. So I was 17 years old. It was between my junior and senior year. I went to basic training. And then in the middle of my senior year, I went and finished high school hours and all that stuff in what they call AIT. So it's like the military schooling, right? And so I was inspired by this friend's dad. Once I got home, I was like, man, I still don't know what I want to do. Like, I have no clue, right? Like, I want to be a computer science engineer, right? Was my thought. And that was like a popular thing back then. And it's like, you have no chance. You're not a computer guy. You don't have the grades for it. You don't have the money for college. You don't have any of these resources that a lot of other people do, or that might even be available today. I don't know. So his dad was like, why don't you get in the trades, become an electrician. You seem like you'd be a good electrician. That was the first time I heard it, And then number two, coincidentally, I had a friend who right out of high school became an electrician, working for a small shop. And so I just took the advice, and I asked my buddy, hey, can you give me a job? And eventually it all panned out, and that's where it started. And so I never intended for this to be my long-term career. I never thought that I'd be here, running a multi-million-dollar business. I never imagined that was how it was going to take place. Honestly, it was hard work. Electrician's not an easy job. You got to be mentally and physically, strong in the field, and it takes a lot out of you for sure. So as a young guy, 19, 20 years old, my mind wasn't on all this work.
Yeah.
Right. So it made it even more challenging. And then I had the military thing going on and all this. And so, ultimately, with the contracting thing, so as an electrician, you have to put in your time, right, to get your residential license, your residential wireman's, then your journeyman's license, and then you could get your master license after that. So it all's based on how many hours you have and how much experience, taking a test, doing the schooling, all that stuff. So one thing just led to another, and I was working for somebody at the time who he was pretty old, and he was going to retire. He was at the end of his career. And so just seeing him and how he handled his business, I knew if this guy could do it, I can do it, right? And so ultimately I figured, man, I want freedom, right? I think everybody desires these same things in their life, and people see businesses as freedom, right? And that's kind of true, right?
Yeah,
But
you
it's
can easily become
not.
a slave to your business if you don't watch out.
You could hate your business. You could create something that you do not like, right? And it's challenging. So that's kind of where it started, was just the idea of becoming free, being my own boss. I know I could work hard. I know I could go speak to people and market myself and acquire business and all these things. But I didn't know anything. What it turned out to be, right? It's like I had tools, I had a truck, I had myself, I had my phone, and I had willpower is what it was. And so
Yeah.
you learn a lot. And that freedom was there. I was my own boss. I could determine my hours, when I go to work, when I don't, how much money I need this month, all those things. But ultimately, when you fall into that trap, of not realizing that, sure, you're free right now with your time, but you're not financially free, and you're not building anything of value, really. You're just kind of getting by, and which was great, having a young family and being married young and stuff. I was able to go do whatever I needed to do with the kids and chase them around, fall playing sports, and I was always home and always had all this time on my hands. But was I really making money or creating anything of value? I wasn't. And as you get older, when you're not doing those things or setting yourself up there, then that freedom starts to dwindle for sure.
Right, but I think your kids really appreciate that you were there for them and were able to do that. Most dads aren't able to do that, so that's really cool.
Yeah.
So was there a turning point? Like a lot of business owners don't make it past year number 5. A lot of business people or people go into a business, trying to turn their passion into a business, and they don't realize that there's this whole business side of things. So was there something that helped you like turn a corner as you started to grow? Because at first, were you like a one-man shop, just one-man electrical?
Yeah, I was. So, it was thankfully my wife, Lana, who's helped me build this business, maybe most days even more than I have. She was in real estate at that time when we first started. And so she knew a lot of the real estate people around town and stuff. And that's really where we grew the business, was just through realtors, making connections there. And so what happened was, everything was great. We were doing fine. We bought our first house. We had my second kid. Lana was able to hang up her license in real estate, and we just kind of focused on the business. And what I found was, my big vision back then was, I just want to get big fat paychecks, right? Like, and so how do you do that, right? Like, how do I get these $30,000, $40,000 type payments to me? And it's like, okay, well, I'm going to go into commercial work, and commercial projects are usually larger contracts, and you get paid, percentages at a time. So that was my strategy. Let's go into commercial. Let's figure this out here. And what I noticed over the years was, because I was staying so small, I think like I went from myself to, I hire the neighbor kid to drive me around, and I'd teach him this and that. I'd hire a family member to come help me out. It took me years to like really get the courage to actually hire a full-time employee. It was like I just had this fear of failure, right? Like, really is what it is, and I can't afford that, or how am I going to keep them busy? And ultimately, I think looking back, it's like I was just scared that now I'm going to have to become this new person, right? And like evolve into this person that these people are going to need. And so what happened was, in commercial's been great for us. We've done really well with it, but we were, all our eggs were in one basket. And what would happen is, a couple times a year, I was finding myself in a cash crunch where I didn't have any money. We're waiting on payment from this guy or that guy or whatever it is, constantly chasing money. And then as soon as that money comes, I'm paying all the vendors, I'm paying all my bills, I'm paying everything, and then we're broke again. And so this kept happening. It kept happening year after year, and I'm like, what is going on, And I'm working my tail off. Like, I'm out doing as much as I can and still trying to enjoy my life. So it was like this balance of, I don't know, it just wasn't working, right? And so that's where I realized, it's like, man, you either need to figure this thing out or go do something else. And it's funny, because my mind was always on, let's go do something else, right? I'm sure I could go find something easier. And like, what I know now is that that's just not true, right? You could take anything and you could turn it into something great. It doesn't matter if you're a lawn service guy, if you're a drywall or a painter, and I'm speaking in trades. I mean, anything you want to do, if you learn the business side of it, you're going to be successful at this stuff, right?
Definitely.
So,
so the turning point, do you think, was hiring a actual full-time employee, the first one? And then from there, did you grow, like you hired another one and another one, or how did that work?
Yeah, I hired people based on like our workload. I was constantly like this balance of, how much work do we have? And then, so we hired one guy who's still with us today. And then we hired another guy who's still with us today. And then we hired another guy who actually just went to a bigger company recently and got an amazing opportunity with them, it was bittersweet, right? It was really cool. Like, and all three of these guys had zero experience when they started with me. So to put in that much time and effort into people, and then to see them go was kind of hard, but it's also necessary sometimes. Sometimes people
Yeah.
holding your back, so you get too comfortable or something.
Right.
So you have to make tough decisions like
Yeah.
that.
Let's talk a moment about how lucrative the business is, the trades, and in electrical especially, like a person who is not like college oriented could take the path into one of the trades like electrical, and once they graduate, they can earn a salary range of like how much in that first year.
Yeah, man, the market's just demanding right now, and it's, we're coming out of COVID, so it was a really strange time where I feel like in the past 4 years, like if you could fog a mirror, you were hired. Like it was
Yeah.
hard to find
Yeah,
people
that's true
to
for a
do.
lot of businesses. Yeah.
Yeah, and so with that, supply and demand, naturally these people become more expensive, and you have to be competitive with the next guys and offering this and offering that, and being competitive if you want A+ players, right? So your first year, common, I think around here, we're paying. I mean, it depends on the person. Number one, if you got a very green guy, fresh out of high school, minimal life experience, minimal experience in the work field, all that stuff, he could,
Or she.
or she, sorry, yeah, absolutely. That's one thing we're seeing more of right now is more female tradespeople, which is amazing because they bring a whole other touch to the game. But I mean, you're going to pay guys $17 an hour to start if you're doing an hourly thing, but that increases really fast. And especially if you're the right person, you could get up to 20, 24, $25 within your first and second year, as a brand new guy. But that's just a start. Most journeymen in Colorado, and like I was mentioning earlier, it kind of happens in tiers, in waves. So in 2 years, you're eligible for your residential wiremans, and those guys are probably making 30-ish, $35 an hour, something like that. I don't know exactly what that translates to annually, but then you get your journeymans, and once you have your journeymans, you're set for life, as long as you can maintain that license and you keep practicing your craft and getting better at it and all those things, you'll always have a job. You could travel the country, right, and do whatever. And so we have journeymen at our company, which we're not a big company, but we feel like we pay our guys decent, making $40-$50 an hour. So
Yeah, and so a person could graduate into that first tier of electrical without any college debt and make a decent living, and then continue to improve and increase their salary.
yeah, pretty quick.
Yeah, and the jobs are very much in demand. Yeah. And what's unique about your company compared to other electrical companies is, can you tell us about that? Like, what's your unique value proposition for King Electric?
Yeah, so man, we've been working on a lot of stuff, and as I was explaining this whole evolution of the business and going through these cash crunches and stuff, we learned a couple things. And what happened, and this is kind of part of that story I was talking about with the evolution of things, is I was just not in a good place with this, right? And so we decided to sell the business, and I didn't realize how much it was worth. So we met with a broker, we met with an attorney, we started learning all this stuff. They're valuing the business, and it's worth so much more than I ever imagined. And I'm like, wait, what? Like that's a lot of money, right? And I had no idea, and it was just based on our numbers and based on our reputation and years in business, all these things. And so through that process, we met with several different private equity people, other contractors who wanted to partner with us or buy us and bring me on board, all these different options, right? And it's just like, that felt good. It was like, wow, I'm just meeting all these super successful people who are business arbitrage kind of guys, or, the private equity guys, and just people that were very financially smart. And so through that process, one guy told me, he's like, you're sitting on a gold mine. You're just not doing it right. And I'm like, okay. And so that led to, the commercial thing, it's great, but it's not the future. And if my business is worth that much, just focusing on commercial, now I want to get into this home service thing and build our residential side, which did numerous things for us. One, that cash crunch problem started going away because now I'm getting paid like every day, right? Rather than every 2 months or whatever. And what else? I mean, through that process of selling, we learned what we needed to do and how we need to move forward with the business and the systems and the processes and all the things that need to happen. And then I turned 40, and something happens when you turn 40, I feel like, where it's like, okay, I'm ready to go to work now. I'm getting older. I need to get this stuff figured out. And if it's worth this much, here's the next goal, like this is, and now that we're doing this. And so what's unique about us is having that experience with the commercial side of things and industrial. I worked on the oil field for years as an electrician, but now we're starting to build this residential side of thing where I think that's where the value is in the trades, for several reasons.
Yeah. Residential is smart, I think, because especially in northern Colorado, this region of the country is continuing to grow, especially in Greeley and Weld County, where we're at right now. Let's switch gears into, how do you balance being a company leader, a husband to Lana, and a father to Kanan and Kendall, and just make it all work? Does it always work?
It's it's tough. It's like I mentioned earlier, Lana, my wife, she's been by my side the entire time, and that's probably the main reason that we are where we are. Like, I'm a creative person. I'm a visionary, right? Like, I have vision. I'm constantly visualizing the future of the business, the guys, the pay, this, that, the trucks, the branding, everything, But as far as implementing things, that's not my strong suit. So luckily, Lana is an excellent implementer, right? So she's been able to help me there. But we do work together, and we have for the entire time. And like I mentioned earlier, kind of taking it easy the first 2/3 of this life of this business. I was able to spend time with the kids and home and do all those things. So we had kids young. We were married I was 24 when we got married, so we started really young, and we just celebrated our 17th wedding anniversary, actually.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. So last week, so we've came a long ways, and our family, it's neat. We're creating like this we have this saying, everybody moves in the same direction, and so with my son, Kanan, he's now just turned 19, but he's super entrepreneurial spirited. All he knows is this. He knows, he tells us all the time, I'm so lucky to have you guys, like, you're showing me things that, like, my friends don't know. I got friends in college. He's like, they don't understand this stuff. They don't understand the numbers and the process and the systems, and goals are great, but
and developing the company culture.
Right. Just like everything, getting your brand out there. What does that mean? What is the marketing behind it? Like, how do you find the right people and put them in the right places and buy back your time, right? Like, how do you do these things? So,
he started his own business too, right?
He did. Yeah. So Kanan, and I was like, man, 18 years old, he formed his first LLC.
Wow.
And he's a mobile detailing business. And I was like, man, just do something easy. It doesn't matter what you do, but what you're going to learn behind it is going to be far more valuable. And so, like, one of his goals or things we talk about now is just build this business up to where maybe you could sell it, right? Let's get that experience of going through that process and understanding what you have here, what you built, and then we'll take it on to the next thing, or you keep doing this, whatever it is, so.
As long as I love the saying, keep creating a life you don't have to take a vacation from. I try to live by that. But what's been your most significant accomplishment as a business owner? And I hope you'll mention your own podcast, but I know there's other things too. But
so we started in 2010, right? So we're going on 15 years now. It's funny, I've been thinking about this question, and nothing just stands out, right? And I think that's just my natural personality, where it's like, it never feels like enough. I could tell you that, but some things that I came up with was, one, just our being in business for a decade, know, and now we're going on 15 years of creating our own way, and we've purchased several houses and places in the mountains and all these things just based off our own decisions, so that's awesome. Being able to keep these guys working, right, is amazing. We have employees buying houses and having kids and doing all these things, and it's like, that feels amazing, to at the Christmas party to be able to talk and like, hey, where you at? What's going on? How can I help you? That's been huge. I asked Lana about this, and a couple. I guess this wasn't exactly our idea, but like, breaking the $1 million in sales a year. When that year that we were able to do that was like, to me, I was like, oh, that's cool. It doesn't feel like I have any money, but it's like that's a pretty significant thing, I guess. Sure, and now we know we could do that, and our financial thermostat is now set to this point, or whatever you want to call it.
That's incredible.
So that was neat.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, what are the top 3 things that you're so glad that you implemented in your business that's actually helped you to grow the business?
Yeah, that one's easy. Number one, investing in myself has been huge. That's been like the major thing, right? Like, you never stop learning, you never stop growing, and that's the mentality you got to have with this thing, until it's till your dying day. I feel like, I don't think problems ever go away, right? They're always going to come, but you got to become better and stronger and more resilient to the things that are going to come your way, for sure. So investing in myself has been huge, constantly books, coaches, mentors, talking with, like-minded people, other business people, whatever it is. Just being consistent with that has been huge. Number 2, investing in my guys and being able to pour into them what I'm learning and giving them the vision, and this is why we're doing this. This is why things are changing. This is why this, that, whatever. And I love sending them videos all the time, of whatever I'm watching at the time, or YouTube videos, or we're working on playbooks right now in the business where it's like, this is our go-to when we have to figure marketing out or training out. This is the playbook, so
Nice.
we're working on these types of things where it's like, standard operating procedures, right? Like, so the guys aren't calling me 20 times a day like, hey, my drill battery died. Okay, guys, plug it in, like
Right.
that's, kidding about that.
Yeah.
But so investing in myself, investing in the business, and then the last one would be investing in the business, right? Doing things like always thinking efficiency, always thinking automation, and right now we're currently switching from our old CRM, which is just a customer relations management system. It's where you do everything, right? The guys clock in, take pictures, do notes, do the follow-up. It's our brains of the operation and memory. So we're switching over to something called Service Titan right now, which is probably the industry leader in home service. And it just offers so much, and it's going to make our lives a lot easier here in the next year or two. We're actually going live with it next week and training the guys on it, on the new CRM, and just the capability of it is amazing. So it's a must if you're wanting to scale your home service business, or really any business. Service Titan is absolutely phenomenal. So
That's great. That's great. So you and your guys are continually learning and evolving, not just on your skills, but like you said, the marketing, educating your customers when you meet with them, and just continuing to grow not only yourselves, but the company contributes to that. That's cool.
Yeah.
What excites you most about the future, whether it be personally or professionally, or both?
Man, so many things. Yeah. I'm really excited to get through this Service Titan thing. It sounds like a small thing, but it's actually a very large task for a husband and a wife small shop to tackle this type of thing. It takes months to get everything dialed in the way you want it and stuff. So number one, short term, getting through this and going live with it is going to be a really big deal for us. So that's exciting. Number two, getting to a place in my career where, I don't wear tools so much anymore. I'm not out in the field so much anymore. I got a group of great guys, right? And so I'm able to focus on the business a lot more and doing those things that I had no idea about before. So seeing where I came from to where I am to where I'm heading is super exciting. And so that's exciting in the business. Personally, I mean, we just bought a new house last year, which it's in a way it's kind of our dream house and something we've talked about for years, and like having this type of property and this type of house in this location. It's just something we visualized for so long, and now like we just finished some of the landscaping, but there's a bunch of landscaping to do. I want to build a shop and all these things, so it's just like constantly visualizing where are we going to put the shop, what's it going to look like, are we going to like all these things is a lot of fun. My kids, Kanan, 19 with his own business, where he's going to go with things is really exciting. And I mean, I was just on the phone with him and, on the way here and just talking business,
Yeah.
and it's his idea. He's calling me, like asking me, like, what should I do with this? How would you do this? Like, I love that.
Yeah.
Lana, I'm super excited for her. So she's not only just worked in the business, but she's been building her own career for a decade now, and she's been in the markets. She's a day trader, so she's been working on that for 10 years, and where she's came to where she is now is really exciting, and she's been through so much with it. She's been a teacher. She's worked for different companies to like teach this stuff, but she's been so consistent with that thing, and like talk about like consistency. She's and day trading is not an easy thing. It's not. It's one of those things where you're going to lose a lot more than you win, especially in the beginning. And we're coming out of that, and we're starting to see the fruits of her labor with that. So that's really exciting.
That's really great. It sounds like all of you are growing, and also growing together.
Yeah.
There's sort of a theme here today, growth, and I think it's important.
Yeah, I love that. I love thinking, I say it all the time at the house, we're all moving in the same direction, and so whether it's our health, our relationships, the finances, whatever it is, I just really try to pound that in the kids' head, like we're stronger as a unit, and sure, if you want to go do whatever you want to do, that's great, but, we'd love to help you, and we'd love you to stick around here for life, and, we don't want to see our kids leave and all those things, so, and then my daughter, she's 14, and super athletic, and so her basketball season starts right now. She just finished volleyball, so she's always fun to watch, and she's a handful, and I've probably learned more from having a 14-year-old daughter than anything. So
Yeah, I bet you do.
Mm-hmm.
So with 16 years of business experience, or 20 really, right?
Yeah.
What advice would you give if you could go back in time, what advice would you give to your 1-year-old business self, knowing everything you know now? What would you tell that guy?
It's easy, it's like, well, I have a son, right? So it's almost like that's kind of what I'm doing with him.
Yeah.
And it's like, all the things I'm talking about right now is what I'd be saying. It might be it would have been over my head at 16 or whatever it is, as a kid. But number one, I'd probably focus on growing yourself, and don't let anything hold you back. Don't be afraid to make mistakes, especially as a young guy or young girl. You're young. You got a lot of time to make some mistakes, and mistakes is where you're going to learn, right? And that's where you're going to gain your confidence. Been there, done that. Not worried about the repercussions any longer, and so just don't be afraid, right? Like take some chances. Surround yourself with good people. If you're a guy, find yourself a good girl to grow with. If you're a girl, find yourself a good guy to grow with. It's not really, like that's what happened with Lana and I. It's like we were both very equal, right, when we started, and we grew together, right? It's not like I had all this and she had all that. It was not like that. It was just we had each other, and we focused and visualized the future we wanted, and every single day we chipped away at it. There's not very many days in the past 20 years that we haven't been consistent in one form or another. So
that's so wonderful.
Yeah.
That is really wonderful.
Yeah.
One last question. How would you like our listeners of this podcast to think of you after hearing everything that you've shared today? What's a takeaway that you'd want everybody to remember?
Yeah, I mean, I wish, I know some people that may see this may know where I come from, but most people don't, and I really wish I could paint that picture of it. I'm not supposed to be here. Some days I feel like that. I'm not supposed, like...
The odds were against you.
The odds were against me.
Yeah, single
right?
mom.
Yeah. My mom was 16 when she had me.
Yeah.
Right, very young, she struggled, and it was tough, right? And so I have a lot in common with a lot of people in this area, especially, like I think the biggest difference is I desired, that desire, number one. I was able to visualize these things and still do, and it never ends, it's like, all right, what's the next thing, and just and then two, as far as business and other business like-minded people, I think collaboration's huge. I love, if there's anybody out there that, has any ideas or just wants to go have lunch and talk about business or whatever, I love that. I absolutely love that. I often find myself driving down the road and just so excited. Not too many people to call and talk about business, right? Because not everybody's doing these things. And so other like-minded people, I'm always game for collaboration, just talking and seeing what we could come up with, even if you just need a vent or you want to share your successes or whatever it is. Like, I love that. I love that. Yeah.
I love that too.
Yeah.
And I love that you came here today and shared your story with us today. So thank you so much, Fabian Flores, King Electric LLC.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see what you do with the future years. I mean, just in this year coming up, it's going to be awesome.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate you too, Lori. You've done a lot for us also. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been my honor to be working with you and Lana, the whole family.
Yeah. Thank you.
So, thank you. And that's a wrap.